And we're back with our double episode. I think this is episode 6 now. I think we're going to end on the cabinet meeting. There's so much with regard to the cabinet meeting that happened, uh, so we'll end there. But I think you wanted to start just with an update on RFK Jr. and all his glory. He's the HHS, Health and Human Services Secretary, and he's been on a roll this week.
I guess I want to address first some of the stuff that I guess they've been saying that they've been doing. And they last week they said that they announced plans to phase out petroleum-based food dyes. If it's not necessary in our food and we don't really know possible outcomes with it, let's get rid of it. Okay. So only two rarely used dyes, including citrus red 2 and orange B, were actually banned. The rest are voluntary.
They don't mention that though. The headlines are never like it's a footnote. It's voluntary.
Yeah. So they want to say how they're making America healthy again.
Ooh. Maha, right?
Maha. You're so fucking dumb. And they like to compare our country to Europe with their food dye bans. And they say it a lot that Europe has a ban on red 40. They don't ban it though. It's just labeled differently.
It's a warning.
Yes. And then I guess we are going to be banning red dye 3, but it's still allowed until July of 2027. So we're making America healthy again, but just slowly. It's fine. So that's kind of just irritates me when I hear all of these people with the dye thing about how the Trump administration is just doing so great, because look at what they've done so far.
What about his? I thought I saw something about he can't leave the MMR vaccinations alone. You're kind of like twitching. What's going on there?
God. He is so misleading. I can't stand him. Like, he reads something. This is what happens when you put someone who doesn't have a high level of education in these topics to head a huge department, a very important department in our country. Like, he's insane. He reads something, he somehow makes a connection to something else, and then he spreads lies. He writes books. I part of me wants to read the book that he wrote about all of this stuff, but I think I just end up with a really bad headache, and I just don't know that I want to do that to myself right now. So
you do it and tell me about it.
What he said.
Because I watched the cabinet meeting, so you didn't have to do that. So you read that book and tell me about it.
Anyway, he came out and said that the reason like people are not wanting to get the MMR vaccine is because it contains a lot of aborted fetus debris. Pause for effect. So, like, he obviously knew something about it and then just ran with it. So when the rubella vaccine was,
which is the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella.
Measles, mumps, rubella. When the rubella vaccine was first created, in general, like, to make vaccines, you have to get viruses to reproduce on a high scale. You can't just grow viruses out of nothing. They have to have cells in order to replicate. They can't just replicate on their own. They basically infect a cell. They use the cell's machinery type stuff, like their factory, the cell's factory, and then they like create duplicates of the viruses, and that's how they spread. Fetal cells worked really well. They are from like a sterile environment from within the womb. They wouldn't be infected with other viruses because you don't want to really be playing around like moving viruses, mixing viruses. So it was first obtained. They got these fetal cells from an elected abortion in the 1960s. It's these same fetal cells from that abortion from the 60s.
From one abortion?
Yes.
In the 60s.
And they have continued to use that same cell line because they can grow it. When you have fetal cells, they grow at a very slow rate and then they freeze them to slower or like reduce the growth rate even further. So yeah, still the same ones. They're not going out and aborting babies to steal their, tissues to make vaccines out of. It was a voluntary abortion back in the 60s. And that fetal tissue has saved millions of lives. Or if you're Pam Bondi, trillions of lives.
We'll get to Pam Bondi or math.
Bondi math. So basically, once the virus is grown within these fetal cells, they take it there. Obviously, this isn't a lab. They purify it. They remove any remnants of the fetal tissue. That's just how it, and any reagents that they use to grow the virus. So to say that the MMR vaccine is made from and has fetal particles in it is completely not true. And it was
isn't it just another it's just another way for him to, because he's a vaccine skeptic or an anti-vaxxer, it's just another way to mislead the public and not wanting to get vaccinated, right? Because there is this huge, pro-life, pro-choice, which I hate those terms, by the way, but we're not going to touch on that today. But there's a lot of emotion around that. And so by tying it to that very emotionally charged subject, you're encouraging people not to get vaccinated. As the head of HHS.
Mind you, many religious organizations, including the Catholic Church, are pro-vaccination. They have taken up this issue because they're obviously anti-abortion, but they realized the amount of lives that this process has saved.
Well, there's also, talking about HHS, the funding cuts, and I can't remember if you sent me this or I sent you this, but the NIH, and we've talked about the National Institute of Health and the funding cuts that are happening under RFK Jr.'s and Doge, but RFK Jr.'s direction. But there was a U.S. representative. He shared on the House floor a call from one of his constituents about this constituent's son, like a 46-year-old battling colon cancer, stage 4 colon cancer, and they had the family, had gotten to the point where chemo was no longer working. And when you're battling cancer, which again, everyone should be able to relate to this, because I cannot believe that there's a single person that doesn't know someone who has battled cancer and is recovering, or has battled cancer and lost their lives. And this constituent's 46-year-old son, chemo's not working. They then turn to doctors will turn to clinical trials as a last ditch effort. And when they were talking, this family was talking about the clinical trials, their doctor said they're not available any longer. NIH funding has been cut, and so we can't offer you a trial.
This comes down to the empathy thing.
Yeah.
If it's not happening directly to them, they don't give a shit.
No. So that, clinical trials do work too on occasion. So if it doesn't, offer some sort of cure at some point, it oftentimes will at least give you,
some time.
There's no words. And this isn't a one-off. Like this is happening over and over and over again. These are real world consequences.
Consequences. Yeah.
And I have to tie this a little bit to the cabinet meeting, which we're going to talk about here in just a bit, but just on point with this, during the cabinet meeting, RFK Jr. essentially said, you know, they've cut all this, and he thanked Elon Musk for all the work they've done because they've saved $67 billion without compromising. Yeah, without compromising any critical programs. What do you mean by critical? When you're killing people, that's not critical? Okay. I listened to that, and
I'm glad I didn't watch that.
It was awful. It was 2 hours of just awful shit.
I'd wonder what the parents of kids going through cancer treatments feel about that statement.
Yeah, turning to just the EPA, I think you mentioned something following up on a few things from last time.
All of those fun chemicals that, you know, we're at odds with the HHS and the EPA. We want chemicals to be in the air and water, but yet chemicals are bad. We don't want them for anything else with HHS. It's a real fun thing. But the Washington Post reported on Thursday that the EPA, the Senate overturned an EPA rule on 7 highly toxic air pollutants. It is expected to also pass in the House. It will be the first time Congress has weakened protections under the Clean Air Act. So that's exciting. Basically, they're reversing Biden's regulations. Shocker. And these are pollutants that are emitted by chemical plants, oil refineries, industrial, factories, that type of thing. So yay, big win for fossil fuels and all that garbage. The pollutants, guess what they include? Mercury, woo! Alkylated lead, dioxins, these things cause cancer. They're definitely labeled as carcinogens. They can cause brain damage, among other things.
Let's roll it back. Roll it back.
They're saying that the regulations that were done under Biden weren't incentivizing these companies to want to do better. Because basically, if one of these 7 chemicals they found levels higher than what was acceptable, then they needed to continue to rigorously monitor them. Basically, that was the regulation. They don't think that's fair. It causes unjust basic finance issues for these companies. So
they need more money.
So now it's just, we hope you do the right thing.
That's work.
Yeah. So that's exciting news. Yay.
Well, it seems like this is a great way to enter into our discussion on the cabinet meeting. Buckle up. Oh my God. And I'm going to play some clips of this as we go. It was 2 hours of hell to listen to it. I had to break it up. Like I said, it was
I had to take a short break.
You had to take a short break?
I had to take a short break.
Yeah. Because
if you said this cabinet meeting was as awful as it was going to be, I decided I was going to go get myself some chocolate. Sorry. I could send you some. But in case anybody else wants good chocolate, I mean, it's probably going to get way more expensive these days, but it's delightful and it's responsibly sourced. Tony's Chocolonely. John Oliver on Last Week Tonight did a wonderful episode on it, and you should watch it because it's eye-opening about how chocolate is sourced and how people don't pay merely what these people should be making that farm the beans to make it. But it's delightful, and I'm going to have a little bite here while someone tells me all about the chaos that ensued at the cabinet meeting.
You have a drink too?
I thought about getting a drink, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do some chocolate. This is fine.
All right. I got me my iced mocha latte still. So the cabinet meeting, it was like 2 hours of hell, but I pushed through. I did have to stop several times just to take a breath. But fun fact for anyone who doesn't know, Trump's cabinet is largely made up of billionaires. And I do mean billionaires with a B, okay? Worth at least $428.3 billion, according to US News. That's higher than the GDP of 174 countries. So obscene wealth, right? So that's out of the gate. These are the type of people we're dealing with, right? I'm so jealous with your.
It's a really good kind too.
You're a jerk. So I said this before, I think in our first episode today. It is not normal that cabinet meetings are televised. It doesn't happen, but all of them have been televised under the Trump administration
because they want to be transparent.
But it's just about a show. It's just about theater. It makes for good television because Trump was a semi-successful, reality television personality. I blame The Apprentice for what we're doing.
For the downfall of our country.
Yeah. Yes. What was the
breed?
Yeah. Oh. At any rate, it was televised. There's reporters there. They went on for 2 hours. And if it was a drinking game and you took a drink, and I don't mean a shot, I mean just a drink. You could have been taking sips of wine about every time they badmouth Biden. You would have been drunk 30 minutes in. Like it would have just been constant. It's not normal, right? It's not normal to criticize and badmouth prior administrations. I mean, Biden didn't do that with Trump, Obama. Like it's not what you're supposed to do. It is not normal. They also, and we'll play some clips of some of this, but they praised every cabinet member, praised Trump for his great leadership and his wisdom. I mean, over and over and over again. And how great the cabinet that he assembled was. So they praised Trump and they praised themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact.
So great.
Most of the people sitting in that cabinet are just unqualified.
And not to mention the pic. I only saw a few pictures and small clips of the cabinet meeting because I was like, I had a busy work week, didn't get to dive into all that. But the pictures of them with their Gulf of America hats at the table.
I'll put an image of that in so we can
ties into the thing that I just saw today about them changing that federal employees can once again wear political apparel to work. The Trump admin rescinded prior guidance that prohibited from engaging in political activities while at work. This is the kicker. Visible support for candidates in their campaigns in the future is still banned, but support for current office holder is not. So that's basically what they wanted. They want everybody to be going around wearing a lovely red hat.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
It's just
okay. So I'm going to play some clips of these as we go along, but we have the Commerce Secretary, billionaire, touting the Trump gold card. For anyone that missed that, that's something that they rolled out.
Another thing about how we hate poor people, we're accepting to immigrants as long as you're fucking rich immigrants. You can buy status to be here for $5 million, but if you don't have that kind of money, fuck you.
Yep. No. And he said
I hate it here. Hate it.
He said he was out to dinner the other night and someone came up to him and wanted to buy 10 of them. He's like, oh, that's not bad. So I'll play that clip so we can enjoy that.
We've got so much as I travel around, the attention on the Trump gold card. I mean, it makes me very popular. Last night, I was out to dinner and someone came up and said, can I buy 10? And how do I buy 10? And I'm like, it's pretty good. It's $50 billion for dinner. So, I was paying for my dinner.
So there's that. And he also then touted their plan to eliminate the IRS. Again, it's just
they're using the IRS to find undocumented immigrants. They don't pay taxes.
And
it's weird.
But then but their goal is, though, this goes back to the tariffs. Their goal is what he said, to do away with the IRS and let those outside countries, that's his words, basically let other countries pay their fair share through tariffs. Again, they're not paying. These countries are not paying the tariffs. You are paying the tariffs. I'm paying the tariffs. The consumers, for the most part, are paying the tariffs. Maybe the companies eat it a little bit, but most of it is passed directly on to the consumer. And it's essentially would be doing away with the income tax in this country and doing a nationwide sales tax, which is another mechanism for basically widening that wealth gap, right? Because we all make purchases, right? But the people who are paying and at the very top end of that at the income bracket, they would never be buying as much in the way of goods to pay the amount of tax that they pay in the current, tax structure. So it's fucking the little guy and making the rich richer, which is what this administration.
It's their agenda, so fits right in.
Yeah. Then we have the transportation secretary, which I think this guy is the one from the real world. Like he was that guy, like some reality TV personality. He was talking about rolling back. I know. Fucking, you can't make this up.
It's fine.
My husband hates me saying that. You can't make this up. I hear, well, you can't. Like, we're in an alternate universe. He was touting rolling back vehicle fuel economy standards to make cars more affordable.
So we're gonna reverse the progress we made there, where we're trying to
make them more affordable, but never mind the fact that they're putting the tariffs on them, which all the news reputable, even Fox News, has been reporting on what that would do to the price of cars. Anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 or something. It's an obscene amount of money. So there's that. We had one of the trade representatives, or the trade representative who sits on the cabinet, chimed in with regard to, the tariffs have been wonderful. And no country but China has retaliated. Really? Because Canada's freaking pulling all U.S. goods off their shelves. And they're all doing so-called retaliatory, tariffs.
Yeah.
Like my head almost exploded on that one. You have the CIA director who was there saying that, praising Trump, that he has had a profound positive impact on America's national security. Really? Because I'm just waiting for something really bad to happen. Because, the people that are supposed to be protecting us, the FBI, the CIA,
you're firing
being pulled into firing half of them and being pulled
and you're sending the rest in to look for undocumented immigrants.
Undocumented immigrants.
Yep, that's fine. It's all fine.
Trump was talking, I think the Treasury secretary talking about, actually, I think it was Trump who did this with regard to they're trying to recast the $4.5 trillion tax cut that they're trying to pass as a otherwise tax hike if it doesn't pass. No, it's just extending tax cuts that his prior administration put in place that was only benefit almost entirely the uber wealthy, like 0.1% of the country. So
it makes me so like, why is the greed that much, like, that crazy?
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like,
they can't have
these
enough.
Crazy multi-billionaires that they need these tax breaks and stuff. I don't get it.
You'll like this one. The Treasury Secretary, the Ag Secretary once again referenced the studying of transgender mice. Your face. You want to explain what transgender mice actually are and what they're not?
Well, they're mice that used to like wearing dresses. But now they like now they like bow ties. I can't. No,
No,
no.
not going there.
The term is transgenic. Transgenic. It's fine. We're moving on. Moving on.
I so thought of you. I was laughing when she did it.
Do I get to talk about fentanyl yet?
Just wait. We're getting there. JD Vance needed to jump in there. He smeared the Maryland father again, the Abrego Garcia, and then he lectured the media about what they're covering. Like, he loves to lecture people, and it's he's awful.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Chocolate. Okay.
Here you go. Now, AG Bondi, Pam Bondi. I'm gonna play a clip though where she's praising. I'm gonna play a couple clips because she's a special kind of wonderful. So the first one's about just praising Trump.
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country. Ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
And then the second one, and here's where your head will explode, right? Because you and I are talking about this. This is about the fentanyl. You want to tee this one up? Well, maybe let's listen to it.
I have the quote written down because I was like, are you ready for this, Bondi? Are you ready for this?
Let's listen to it, and then you can calm yourself.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was at DEA yesterday, and they said to me, you, Donald Trump, have taken the handcuffs off of DEA agents. And as a result of, since you have been in office, President Trump, your DOJ agencies have seized more than 22 million fentanyl pills, 3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. Kids are dying every day because they're taking this junk laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dropping dead, and no longer because of you, what you've done.
All right, you want to fact check Miss Pam Bondi?
So 258 million lives were saved. I don't know if y'all know what the population of our country is, but that's like 2/3, 3/4, something like that of our country. It just saved most of our country from the fentanyl that they just got.
So like 3 out of there's 5 people in my family, so 3 of us were saved.
Yeah, probably. At least.
At least, maybe 4.
And
I'm not laughing because fentanyl is dangerous, okay? That's not why I'm laughing. It's the absurdity of the facts.
Yes.
The so-called facts.
Right.
The alternative facts.
It's yay. Great for your seizures. That's what that we want to happen. So yeah, they've seized over 22 million. She loved that 22 million fentanyl laced pills. She had multiple numbers coming out at different points. She said at one point it was 119 million lives, and then another one was 258. Just a little fun fact, if anyone's interested. I looked it up a little bit. In February of 2025, 41% less fentanyl was confiscated at U.S. borders than in January of 2025. And between January and February 2025, they seized approximately 1,630 pounds of fentanyl at U.S. borders, and that's 50% less than had been seized by the same point in 2024. So it's
they would probably...
50. But they're going to just say it's because we had the open border policy. That's why they're getting so much less. They want to twist it. They're going to argue one way or the other. Like we saved this many lives because we're doing so great at seizures. But if they're like, oh, well, they seized more than we did. Well, that's because you're just letting them run amok on the borders. Like they're going to argue it either way. But the fact that she came out and said that they potentially saved 3/4 of our population. I mean,
not potentially. She said you have saved. Yeah.
Well done, Mr. President. You are so great. You're so great.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned, because the DHS secretary also, because the deportations are actually down versus what they were under the Biden administration. And she had a bunch of twisting the facts as to why that was. Essentially that Biden's numbers were inflated. But one more thing on Pam Bondi. She also said that they're going to hold the quote deep state accountable, and they're prosecuting. This will get you. They're prosecuting leaks of classified information to the media. My question is, how many of the people sitting around that table that are being prosecuted?
Waltz did get out. He's out, right? Did he resign?
Mike Waltz.
Yeah, he's gone from the first little signal gate thing.
Yeah, but he's now just a UN ambassador. You know that, right? Yeah. He wasn't fired. He was almost like promoted. Yeah, so no word yet if she's investigating members of the cabinet or Hexeth who were involved in all the signal gate stuff. Probably, but I doubt it. I
gotta get into politics. I gotta do it when my kids are older. It's fine.
Okay, I'll be your campaign manager.
It's where the money is, evidently.
Elon Musk was there still. Yeah, apparently he's stepping away, but he was still there. And I'll share a picture of what he looks like. He had 2 MAGA hats on. One, I think, was Make America Great Again, and the other was Gulf of America. Yeah, it's so...
They're sick. Like, they're twisted. It's so cringeworthy, vomit-inducing.
The EPA director was there, your guy. He was touting the deregulation.
Oh, Mr. Zeldin.
Yeah. Yep.
Enjoy him.
Yep. He also mentioned that they're not going to let California, they're going to go after California for setting stricter emission limits. So
I bet he will.
So much for states' rights, right? And he also then was praising everybody that President Trump had just really assembled the greatest national security team that he's ever seen, with the Secretary of Defense. What? Yeah. No. If you say it enough, they believe you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we have Department of Education. She's McMahon, I think. She touted 50%. She said they're just doing wonderful. They're, she's on the path to firing herself. Touted 50% cuts to Department of Education staff and closing district offices. She cited the civil rights as the reason that they're fighting with Harvard. And I'm going to play this clip of Trump. I'll just play it with regard to Trump. Here it is.
The students they have, the professors they have, the attitude they have is not American. And I think you should. A grant is a grant. We don't have to give grants. So we'll pull back a grant. Very good.
I don't even know what to say about that.
It doesn't have anything to do with skin color. Is that where you're going with it?
I don't even know. I mean, they're not American. Their attitude.
Because they're using their voices to stand up and practicing their First Amendment rights. That's un-American.
They're all for First Amendment rights, though, when it's something they agree
with. It fits their agenda.
Yeah. And then we had HHS, RFK. We've talked about him a little bit in our first episode, but he chimed in with, the politicization of science, which is just Awesome. Talked about dietary guidelines for school lunches and how they're, which I'm all for that.
If we're
I'm
even
all for that.
feeding the kids
If we're
anymore
feeding
with
them.
all the cuts, it's
But
fine.
you do remember, like, Michelle Obama was,
Oh, and they like would tear her apart because she
Oh.
had the get up and
Healthy-
move and like went in different
yeah,
programs.
and
Yes.
healthy lunch options. Yep.
Yep.
He also talks about removing the soda and candy from the food stamp program. You know, because we want kids to be, we want them to know they're poor.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, would a Hershey bar, like, I understand we want to make America healthy again. I'm all for healthy options, but I also know it does no good to make kids, you know, to make them aware of the fact that, yeah, they can't have a candy bar or they can't have a treat because, you know, they're poor.
That reminds me a lot of, and I'll plug this all day. John Oliver, I don't know if you watched that episode of Last Week Tonight. He did it back before the election because they focused on Minnesota and their free school lunch program. They kind of looked at the studies of like the kids that don't have that versus they do. And the scores that they saw in the schools, how beneficial it was. And then they looked at some of the states where they're doing awful things like putting stamps on kids' hands if they were like short money for their lunches.
Traumatizing them.
Yes, it's putting the stigma.
Them.
Yes. It was disgusting. Like, I was in tears watching these episodes because I'm like, I send snacks to my kids' school all the time because a lot of the kids don't have snacks. The only meal they're getting at school is the free lunch, and they may not have, parents that are able to send them with snacks. So I send bulk snacks to school to help out. And it's just like, I can't imagine being okay with that, or being okay with knowing that kids are going hungry.
They don't understand that. I mean, you and I, we grew up in what I would say is a poor area. We didn't have a lot, but there were lots of kids that had less.
Yeah.
Had less. That I just, to me, yes, as a parent, I start tearing up because why would you do that to kids? At any rate, he also went into, they love dropping facts, made up alternative facts. That 38% of kids are diabetic or pre-diabetic. I mean, that on its face isn't, like, it's just stupid. Speaking of
polls, I don't even know where the hell he gets his shit from.
Well,
I'd love to know.
Speaking of stupid, I have the clip of him. He's talked about fluoride before, and here's him talking about fluoride at the cabinet meeting.
Please Health and I are working together to change the federal fluoride regulations, to change the recommendations. We're looking at the science now. One went out that in August, the National Toxicity Program, which was an arm of the NIH, did a meta review of all the science on fluoride and found that there's a direct inverse correlation between fluoride exposure and low IQ in children. So the more you get, the stupider you are. And we need smart kids in this country, and we need healthy kids. And thank you for your leadership. We're going to get there.
Yeah. So this man's just stupid. I don't know how many times we can say that, but he's also I don't have
tirade against fluoride, and it's just
we want rotten teeth.
All we see is that in poorer areas, what it does is cause way more cavities for kids, especially that don't have access. That
who don't go to the dentist regularly.
Yes, that don't have regular dental appointments, that don't have, parents checking in on them, making sure that they're doing everything they need to do. What we're seeing is awful dental care and a lot of issues because of that, for the amount of fluoride. But he's on this kick that it's, making us dumb.
Stupider.
How much fluoride did he get into?
Well, he's already backpedaling on the whole autism thing too. I don't know if you saw this. He said that by September, they'll have their first answers. And then within 6 months of that, they'll have definitive answers for what's causing autism and a lot of other autoimmune diseases. I knew you'd love that one. Also mentioned under Biden administration that the Health and Human Services Agency was a collaborator in child trafficking for sex and slavery. I'm
sorry.
Yes. Maybe I can play that clip. Maybe I'll try playing that.
I think I need a drink. I think I need a drink.
I'll play that clip.
Have ended HHS as the role as the vector, the principal vector in this country for child trafficking. And during the Biden administration, HHS became a collaborator in child trafficking and for sex and for slavery. And we.
Yeah. There's also, he said, they've ended gender mutilation surgeries. I mean, he was on full display. And then he has this clip at the end where he praises Trump. And I have to play this because it's an example of what the hell was going on during this meeting.
I want to thank you for your vision, for your leadership, for giving me the 100 busiest days of my life.
Yeah. So we'll go right into ending with Marco Rubio. This man is, I cannot stand him because he once knew better, and I'm not, I guess money and power.
That's what so many of them. Yeah. Well, maybe not so many, but a portion of them did.
Yeah.
But now they're just bowing down. And
even JD Vance, he called Trump Hitler, like America's Hitler. This is on video, him saying it.
Yeah, multiple times.
Multiple times. But, it's the saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that's really where we are. But Marco Rubio praised the talented ambassadors, including our newest, UN ambassador nominee, I guess. He touted freedom of speech, but then he immediately talked about student visas being revoked for protests. Jesus.
Spot on.
Also said that they're looking for other foreign countries to take illegal immigrants other than El Salvador. That. Yeah, that was the cabinet meeting, but it goes right in. I say, my husband and I talk about this. These cabinet meetings are like out of North Korea.
Yeah.
Out of an authoritarian government where
all you're so wonderful. You're so great. Everything's so perfect.
Wise. I cannot believe you're so smart. I can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
No one could do it. It's the best administration ever in the history of administrations. These are the things they're saying.
Yeah.
And it goes right in line with what they're planning to do for President Trump's birthday. This was just confirmed. You and I spoke about it last week, but it's now been confirmed that there's going to be a military parade for President Donald Trump's birthday. Unbelievable. In June.
Where's Doge at?
Oh, what's that?
Where's Doge at?
Well, you saw some numbers on it. Like at least
a possible estimate of around 45 million at least.
$1 million. And here's what they're going to have allegedly. This is what they're planning and what has been confirmed in parts. It's calling for 6,600 soldiers to be there, 6,600 soldiers, 150 military vehicles rolling across, the DC streets, which will do irreparable damage. So we're not even counting what it's going to cost to fix all this. Tanks rolling through, and 50 military helicopters to follow a route from Arlington, Virginia to the National Mall. Who does things like this? Putin?
He did say there was a
North
thing
Korea?
that I had read said if you look at Russia, they celebrate Victory Day.
Which he renamed Veterans
Oh.
Day, right? To, Victory
Yeah.
Day or something like that. I mean, effing believable. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
that to look forward to. Military parades to celebrate our president or the wannabe autocrat.
But when asked about the cost or the price tag, he said it would be worth it. It's peanuts compared to the value of doing it, because that brings value, apparently. Trump said of the cost, we have the greatest missiles in the world, we have the greatest submarines in the world, we have the greatest army tanks in the world, we have the greatest weapons in the world, and we're going to celebrate it. You've got to be shitting me. It's North Korea.
Yeah. So just kind of wrapping up this segment, they're also they, meaning the Trump administration and Trump specifically, talking about how the price of groceries and everything's coming down. Everything's coming down. He talked about gas being, like, this is his quote, I see that we had a couple of states where gasoline was at $1.98 a gallon. Nobody thought they'd see that for years, maybe. The average price of a gallon of gas is $3.14. I mean, just now.
I have a feeling his cabinet was telling him that.
He's also said that groceries are down. Food is down. Groceries is, as we call it, because he made up the word grocery. No one's ever used it.
He's obsessed with the word groceries. I don't get it.
Because he's never been to a grocery store.
Well, yeah, he doesn't know anything about that.
But that's not true. Prices of groceries have increased by 0.49% from the previous month and 2.4% compared to the previous year. He also said that the price of eggs are down 87%. So we did a great job. Anyone that's been to the grocery store knows that that's not true. So yeah, I mean, they make up shit and they say it enough and they think people will believe it because they have, unfortunately. I think that's where we can end it there. But, I know we've talked about, we did not get to our who said that. We're going to still do that. Who said that from quotes? We need to do that next time. But I guess just doing things that make you uncomfortable. I haven't been to a protest lately, but I do plan. I'm doing the Pride, and you're coming down. We're going to do the Pride Parade, in the coming months, in June. My daughter's going to DC, which I'm a little, 8th grade trip to DC, and she's doing her mom proud. She's wearing a Kamala Harris t-shirt to the White House, and she's asked to do it.
She's doing her aunt proud too.
I know, and it says "I'm speaking."
I have a shirt. I have a shirt that just says "I'm speaking." Kamala Harris.
This has her face, Kamala Harris's face.
But I love that it has her face.
I'm here for it. Just she can give it back, so that's fine. But yeah, so a few I guess just ending on a Disney note, just trying to think. Things that are not kind of Disney park related. You've been to Vero Beach, is that right? Vero Beach. I don't know. You're a big fan.
It's just one of the places with the timeshare that Disney has, that DVC. It's Florida, a good relaxing place. Yeah, it's on the Atlantic side, not the Gulf of Mexico side. But yeah, it's still pretty family friendly. Great pools right on the beach, because a lot of times, like especially on the Atlantic side, you get hotels that are like kind of far back, but it's right. You walk out to the beach, very clean. It's relaxing. Are going to be down there, maybe ending a trip, doing a couple days there after you've been running. And do they have the
characters
parks,
like where you can do character breakfast and things there, or no?
They didn't when I was there. I don't think they do. They just have a couple little themed things here and there.
Very
but
subtle.
I haven't seen character. Yeah, it's subtle. It's not in your face Disney, but yeah, it's still a good little family friendly trip. They do.
Yeah, I've not done Vero Beach, but I've done Aulani in Hawaii. Have you? You haven't been to Aulani yet?
No, I don't. I don't dare take that flight yet with the kids with their ages. That just seems
Someday.
like I mean, Disney at this point feels like I'm kind of a crazy person, but
Yeah. Well, our sister
the flight would be rough,
took a
I think.
baby on the Hawaiian.
I don't know. Well,
flight.
I feel like infants though would be different. Like she was
Yeah.
still an infant, a toddler on that
Still
kind
nuts.
of flight.
Still nuts.
Uh,
I would definitely recommend Aulani. It was wonderful. We went a couple years ago, and Aulani is on Oahu, and we did Oahu and we did Maui, but Oahu with Aulani was phenomenal. It was just a beautiful resort right on the beach, and just Disney does everything, you know.
and don't they have like
Perfect.
the lagoon that's like protected? They have like nets and
Yes, a
stuff, so you don't have
man-made
to worry
lagoon.
about like
Yeah, my kids
sharks and
yeah. I'm afraid of sharks.
my kids are nervous about that too because
Yeah.
we've always talked. I'm like, when you're older, we're gonna go to Hawaii. Older.
Well, we're planning to go back to Aulani because it was just so it was so nice, and my kids it's one of my kids' most favorite vacations when we went to Hawaii, specifically to Aulani. So yeah, so there's lots of things outside of parks that you can do that's Disney related, and it's always family friendly, and that's what I shouldn't say always, but almost always family friendly.
Yeah, almost.
Almost always family friendly. So yeah, let's you want to leave it there, and until next
Till next time.